Divorce is never easy, especially as you get into your retirement years and beyond. However, our guest today has taken on the challenge of helping make divorce just a little bit easier. Welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast. I am your host, Eric Blake. If you have gone through a divorce, going through a divorce, or maybe even just thinking about divorce, you're going to want to tune into today's episode. For all the links and resources for the episode, you can go to www.thesimply.retirementpodcast.com. Our guest today is Neil Palache. Neil is the founder of the Divorce Transition Professionals, a group of professionals who are dedicated to helping divorcing couples and divorced individuals with all their divorce-related needs, which is how I got to know Neil. And he's also the owner and founder of the Wealth Creator Company for Women. So Neil, welcome to the Simply Retirement Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you joining me. I'm really looking forward to this. It's been such a rewarding experience being part of the Divorce Transition Professionals and just getting to know you a little bit. But if you wouldn't mind, just start with sharing a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today.
Well, all right. If you want me to completely bore your audience, I suppose I could do that for a couple of minutes. So I started out in the insurance and financial advisory world and worked in that space for 25 years. And then 15 years ago, decided that I was going to take a slight detour into the consulting and coaching world. So I actually relinquished my securities and registered advisory licenses and became a consultant coach. In the divorce space specifically. So today and for the last 15 years, I have been working with a female clientele exclusively on pre-pending and post-divorce financial issues, and of course working closely with all sorts of other professionals in the mortgage business, financial planning, legal, accounting, private investigation, all of those folks that are possibly and often very much so involved in the divorce process. So that's where I stand today. And then in 2017, I started the Divorce Transition Professionals. And we had one chapter in Westlake Village where I am in Southern California. We now have 28 chapters in 6 states and going strong and helping people, as you said, making divorce just a little bit easier.
Excellent. Well, I know that when you think about, what I do in the financial planning world, and financial advisors, there is some confusion a lot of times around what the difference is between a financial advisor, financial planner, or somebody who does like yourself, who is more of a coach, a consultant. So if you just share what you feel like the difference is between those different professions and who can benefit from which.
Yeah, the beauty of what I now do is that I work and can work with financial advisors. I am in no way a conflict or competition with them. I work with a number of them. And the primary difference is the actual specific work that we do and the licensing and so forth. I'm completely unlicensed, to be quite frank. Coaching and consulting does not require a license, I don't think, in any state. But it doesn't in California. So, as a financial advisor, you've got your securities licenses, your insurance license, and you might be a registered investment advisor and so forth. And you are actually handling the money. You're investing money for people. You're managing the money for people. You're educating them about and helping them to get insurances if necessary. On the life side, health side, long-term care, and so on and so forth. I'm not involved in those transactions at all. It wouldn't be legal for me to do so. I'm not licensed in those areas. And so what I'm doing is primarily, number one, educating in any and all areas of finance. And secondly, helping my clients to get those things implemented through a coaching process and then working closely with their other advisors. Because I find that whether you're in real estate or financial advising, legal, accounting, whatever it may be, there's a certain amount of coaching. I mean, of course, we're all coaching our clients, to a degree, but it's not a coaching model in that, okay, we're going to have a meeting every Wednesday at 3 o'clock for an hour, and we're going to do this, that, and that. It's more like, okay, we need to speak today and then maybe again tomorrow and maybe again in 3 days. So as a financial advisor, there's lots of communication in certain parts of the process. And in other parts of the process, maybe there isn't any for a month or two. And then you do your quarterly and annual reviews and so on and so forth. And then I'm not around permanently. That's one of the biggest difference, is that the financial advisor wants a lifetime relationship with that client, and so does the client. My relationship with them is not lifetime. It's 6 months, it's a year, it's 18 months. Again, it's just not an ongoing relationship. Typically, I have a few clients that I coach because of the business side of the issues that they're now working on, because it's post-divorce. But typically, I'm working for them on a limited basis.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's interesting is unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion in general about what financial advisors do and what financial planners do, much less than you throw in the mix a coach or someone like yourself. But I think that the biggest takeaway is that these are all people that you can have on your team, that it doesn't have to be either or. It can be an and. I'm working with a coach and a financial advisor, a financial planner.
Exactly.
And in many cases, I would say, especially if you're going through such an emotional event like a divorce, you probably want to have these people on your team just because, the emotional aspects are there already, but then you throw in the financial aspects, it makes it that much more challenging. And I would think from what you've talked about, being able to go in and really dive deep into those decisions around what happens during divorce, what am I going to do after my divorce, going through the divorce, that you can really be a really valuable resource.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that one of the things that I find I do a lot of work in is the pre-divorce work. Somebody comes to me, they get referred to me, and it is, they haven't even filed yet. They haven't necessarily even spoken to a lawyer yet. The number one, there's two primary concerns that occur in a divorce, and I find this more so with women than with men, but not that they're insignificant to the male either. And that is the finances, and if there's kids, custody. Right, those are the primary things. And the finances include, where am I going to live and what is my income going to be and so on and so forth. And this is true whether you've got a non-income earning spouse or you have somebody that's making $500,000 a year. They're still concerned about those two primary issues. And so when they come to me prior to divorce, the discussion is essentially, what is this going to look like? Because, they sit down with a lawyer, and, lawyers are great at what they do, but they're not necessarily great at finances. Even though they can explain it, they've got the DISO master and so on and so forth. But I find my clients often, they'll come away, they'll tell me, I just had a 1-hour meeting, initial consultation with a lawyer. And boy, was it confusing. I'm not quite sure what, and it was well explained, I'm sure, but nevertheless, they come away not really fully understanding what the process is going to be and what their financial situation might end up being. So we talk a lot about that if they hire us prior to filing, and then help them to get it filed with their lawyer or mediator or whomever it is that they use for that.
You talked a little bit about how long an engagement would be. So if somebody comes to you, they're just thinking about divorce, what does that engagement look like? Where in the process do you step in? How long would it last from there? Do you guide them all the way through the divorce process, or is it, hey, here's some of the first steps you're going to take, and then you transition them from there? What is it in general? What's the typical engagement look like?
Right. So the initial engagement is 3 months.
Okay.
That's where we begin. And I charge a flat fee for that 3 months. And it's the same for everyone. I don't assess it based on their situation, their net worth, their income, whatever. Everybody gets a flat fee. It's $22.50 currently. That's the fee for the first 3 months. And if they hire me again, it'll be the same fee the second 3 months. So at the end of the 3 months, we'll look at the situation and say, am I needed? Well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, in some cases, they've hired a lawyer, they've got a financial advisor, they've got a mortgage broker, they've got a real estate agent, maybe they've even got a life coach or a therapist involved. I may not be needed. So it just depends. We look at it together and make a decision as to whether or not I'm needed. I think that when I do get hired on an ongoing basis, when they do hire me that second quarter or that third quarter, it's because they've gotten used to having me as an advocate, right? I'm not I don't work with the couple. I never meet the husband. I don't get involved with, how they're mediating with each other than what she tells me. And so I'm completely advocating for her. And in some cases, I am on the phone with her other advisors chatting, or we do 3-way calls and that kind of thing. So it just depends. But I'd say, about 70% of the time, I'm involved for 2 or 3 quarters. And then hopefully, they've gotten a fair amount down the road and, they don't need me. And maybe I pick up again post-divorce.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I would love for our audience to take from what you just said, and that's the word advocate. We've had, in our case on the podcast, we've had a healthcare advocate where they're just trying to help you navigate the healthcare system. And I think, and I honestly, I probably never even thought about this. I probably should have, but somebody like yourself who can serve as that advocate for women going through that divorce process, because there's a lot of moving parts, and just trying to understand everything and try to make the right decisions. Because I'm sure you've heard the horror stories just like I have is, well, I got divorced and the attorney didn't do what they were supposed to do, or this or that. There's all kinds of different things that happen you get on the other side of the divorce and you're just in devastated, whether it's because of lack of income, lack of resources, the settlement didn't go the way you thought it would be.
Yeah.
But having the advocate right off the bat, to me, seems like, again, truly valuable.
We all advocate to a certain degree, and of course that's very important. That person that you just mentioned, that is the health insurance advocate,
right? Yep.
I'd like to know who that is.
Hey, I'll introduce you.
Yeah, please, because that's a great person, and that is so confusing, particularly in California. It's a mess, but I'm sure that's true in other states. So that would be a fabulous person to have on your team for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I also want to hear, because just like we do, we have a very strong emphasis on working with women. You go to our website, it says retirement planning for women over 55. Now we do always talk about that, we do work with couples, but it is very imperative that that both spouses are involved. But for you also primarily focus on working with women. Tell me a little bit about that. What led you to that decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was transitioning from financial advising into consulting and coaching, I hired a business coach, and I sat with her for, I think she worked with me for a few months. Because we were just trying to get to this goal of kind of what am I going to be when I grow up, that kind of thing. And she was terrific. And so she did, the profiling and the personality stuff. And she looked at my previous client base and all that kind of stuff. And initially she said, well, you clearly work very well with women. That was her opinion. I agreed. And we kind of went from there. But, women are half the population of the planet. So that isn't exactly a niche. So we kind of had to boil it down. Okay, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to do female lawyers? Are we going to work with female C-suite? Are we going to work with female stay-at-home moms? Like, what's the niche going to be? And so at one point we talked about divorced and widowed. I'm like, well, yeah, that's definitely an area where help is without question needed. And so ultimately that's the direction we went. And I still work with a few widows, and in the past I've worked with more than I do today. But right now I'm 99% in the divorce world and working with females. I only work with females, and that's how I got there, and I stayed there. And it's been terrific, and I really get a lot of enjoyment, not about their situation, obviously, but just in seeing them progress and being part of that solution, and helping them through the process. And then along the way, I get to work with other great professionals. And so, the whole thing is just really great. Really enjoy it.
Excellent. I have a couple of the questions I want to get to specifically around divorce, but as far as back to the divorce transition professionals, what led you to start the organization? I mean, it's a networking group. I'll let you share more of the specifics about how our audience might be able to utilize or benefit from the group, but just
Right.
a little bit more about the divorce transition professionals and how people. That's one of the biggest challenges we know is when you go through an emotional situation like this. Again, it's back to having the right people on your team, but that team can be pretty big ultimately when you look at it, from
Right.
attorneys to financial planners to coaches to all these different resources. Tell me a little about what led you to start that group.
So in 2009, when I made the transition, I essentially decided that I needed to at least surround myself with a handful of people that were in the divorce world, right? The obvious ones, like a divorce lawyer and a forensic accountant, a therapist who worked in that space, private investigation, and so forth. So I put my feelers out. I knew some people in that business, and decided I would start a study group. Hey, would you be interested? We'll just meet, once a month for a coffee for 90 minutes. One of my colleagues offered her conference room. She was involved in it, she's a mortgage broker. And we just did that. And we did that for 2 or 3 years. I mean, it was really cool. But, we weren't recruiting new members. It wasn't a membership organization. And so over time, the group got smaller and smaller. And then about 3 years into it, it went away. And it was great. And then I went a little while without having any kind of group other than some other networking groups I was involved in. And I just decided, it was around 2016, 15, 16. I was like, boy, I really would like to put that back together, that study group. But I liked the networking aspect of it. And so I decided, all right, you know what? I'm going to have a meeting. I'm going to just put it out there. January of 2017. And I rented a room and, brought in some bagels and coffee. Of course, you gotta have some
Calorie, of
caffeine,
course.
of course. It was, 8 o'clock in the morning after all. And then a good friend of mine is a family lawyer. I said, hey, will you come in and present to us and so forth? So great. And we had this meeting, and it was about an hour and a half. And there were 40 people there. I think actually 36 people were there. That's pretty good. So I said, hey, let's keep going. So we did that meeting every month for the year, the 2017. And then people started asking me about whether or not I was going to do this in any other place. And I kind of said, well, would you be interested in running it if we did?
You didn't want to run all that? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know how to be in all those different places. So they did, some of them did. And we started developing chapters. And then, over the next 7 years, here we are with 28 of them. And it's been great. I mean, I've gotten to meet several hundred fabulous professionals, up and down the country and east and west and all over the place. And I, eventually we'll have chapters in every state. And that's the goal anyway. Unfortunately, people are getting divorced in every city in every state. So they need help.
I do have to say, it's been an amazing experience being part of the North Dallas chapter that I'm a part of. So many great people in that group, so many that are so passionate about helping people, whether women, men, across the board. But just, again, it's such a challenging situation in people's lives, having those resources, having people that you can trust. I think that's the biggest thing, is just saying, hey, I need an attorney. You can find an attorney, but then again, some of these other professionals, Yeah, think about the divorce lending professionals. That was what amazed me, is people that specialize in helping people navigate mortgages. You don't think about that. When you try to split the assets and you got this mortgage on a house, and what do you do about the mortgage and how do you split that? It's not, it is extremely complicated, and having people that specialize in that is just amazing. And it's been a great experience being part of your groups.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm really, really glad to hear that.
I always like to ask this question. If you don't have an example, that's fine. You might even have unfortunately an example on the negative side of things. But is there just a situation, an example that pops in your head of, hey, this is why I decided to do this, either on the coaching side or the reason you started the divorce transition professionals, but maybe just an example of, hey, here's a client that I was able to help that I really felt like I made a difference in that person's life.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing. I have not ever been through a divorce myself, but I'm a child of a divorce. So from a personal perspective, I've experienced that as how old was I? 20-year-old, right? My sister was 15. And, it was not a fun time. And, there were things that happened during that were very dividing and divisive and so forth. So that's number one. Number two, with clients, just there's a number of examples, but the greatest joy is when somebody's going through the process of divorce, and they actually get through it in under a year. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but to think that, well, what do you mean? Well, does it take longer than a year? Well, yeah. I mean, I know people that have been involved 2, 3, 4 years, and they're still not done. And one of the things that people don't understand all the time is that you can actually be legally divorced, but the financial side of the equation is not complete. And so you're still dealing with all the nonsense, but you're not divorced. Oh, yeah, you can go get married again and, legally and all that. But you still haven't decided what's going on with the retirement plan or a house or a property or whatever it is, even though you are actually divorced. So when there is a divorce that goes relatively smoothly, and I feel like I've done my part, and maybe I've brought in 2 or 3 of the professionals that are involved, and everybody's working together, collaborating, and making sure that at the end of the day, the only goal is to get this person through the divorce in the least expensive, least stressful way, and we all accomplish that, and I had something to do with it. That to me is the bee's knees, as they say.
Perfect. So I want to make sure that we have time to get through, so people know how to get in touch with you. So let's start, if you don't mind, let's start with the divorce transition professionals first. If there is a professional out there, a financial advisor, an attorney, a lending professional, whoever it might be, if they are interested in possibly finding a local group, how would they go about doing that?
The easiest thing to do, and you're always welcome to contact me and I'll give you that information, but the website is thedivorcetransitionprofessionals.com. In fact, you don't even have to put THE in front of it if you don't want to. So it's either The Divorce Transition Professionals or just divorcetransitionprofessionals.com. And when you go there, it's an open website. In other words, you don't have to log in. You don't have to be a member. You can look around. Look at the chapters. We've got various places. Look who's in the chapters. Maybe you know somebody in the chapter if there's one locally to you. And if there isn't one locally to you, then chat with me and maybe we'll start one. We'll put another one. So wherever you are. Yeah, for sure. That's how the new chapters get started very often. And I always answer my own phone. So if you want to call or text me directly, you can do that at 818-606-7327. And if I don't pick up the phone, I'll get back to you quickly.
And if somebody's they're thinking about divorce, obviously they can go to that site as well. What information can they find on that site?
So that site is they can find people to help them. So, they're in Dallas and they say, hey, I need a family law, I need a good financial planner, advisor. You can go to the Dallas website, portion of our website and see all the members that are there. And, there's therapists and there's family lawyers, there's estate lawyers and mortgage and real estate and financial, all sorts of different people. So if you need somebody in your local area that can help you with what you're going through, you can certainly find them there and their email, phone number, and how best to contact them and so forth. If you want to read more about the services I provide on the coaching and consulting side, then go to thewealthcreatorcompany.com. That's my coaching and consulting website. And there you can read more about the types of things that we do for you directly if you need that kind of help. But either way, they're connected. The two sites are connected, so you can toggle back and forth and find what you need, or contact me and I'll help you find what you need.
Perfect. Well, I was going to ask you just real quickly on that as well, because I actually, in preparation for our conversation today, I went on the website and just kind of playing around. You've got a number of different resources as well, some videos, some webinars, and different things like that as well. What are some of the other, resources that people might find on your website?
One of the things that I like the most, if you subscribe to our bulletin, you will start to get a 26-week weekly email coaching system. Each week you will be asked questions and you will be given teaching moments and you will be given projects to do, a little bit of homework and so forth, or there'll be a good website for you to visit that we recommend, that kind of thing. I'd say that is quite a valuable resource for you that can help you with some of your financial issues and maybe move you along, in the process of improving your financial well-being.
Absolutely. That sounds like an amazing resource. And we will definitely make sure we share all of these resources and links in the show notes for the episode. Neil, thank you so much for joining me today. If you're looking for coaching, you're looking for resources to help you deal with divorce or widowhood, please feel free to reach out to Neil. If you're looking for a team of professionals that can help make divorce just a little bit easier, please take a look at the Divorce Transition Professional website. If you're here in the North Dallas area, or honestly, really anywhere that you may be listening and you need an introduction to a professional with experience with divorce, you can also reach out to our office. Our website is www.blakewealthmanagement.com. Again, for all the links and resources for this episode, you can visit www.thesiemplyretirementpodcast.com. As always, please like, follow, and share the show. We will see you again on the next episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. In the meantime, please remember that retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey.
That's it for today's episode of the Simply Retirement Podcast. We hope you found our insights and advice helpful in planning for a fulfilling retirement. Don't forget to take action on what you've learned today. Visit our website at blakewealthmanagement.com to learn more about our firm and review our Simply Retirement Roadmap process to get you on the right path to the retirement you deserve. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to helping you achieve your retirement goals. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the start of a new journey. So embrace it and make the most of it. Until next time, take care. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security, or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Blake Wealth Management. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Blake Wealth Management or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor, Blake Wealth Management, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.